Welcome back, Warrior Family.
We're so grateful to be with you.
Yes, that's pretty much what always is like your next line. It's close to that. It's
Yeah.
close. Oh boy. Hey, Warriors. Welcome back to another episode of your favorite anxiety podcast.
Mm-hmm.
We know it. It's true. It better be true. We had such a fantastic guest this week.
Yes.
His name is Ryan Benson, and he was just so inspiring and funny and made me feel really calm and grounded and really seen. And our stories are so different. And so it's always just awesome to hear from someone that has a very different experience from you, but also that you can connect to. So this was such a great conversation. Before Abby hops into a little bit of a recap, let me let you all know a little bit about who Ryan is. Ryan Benson's from Columbus, Ohio. He's 42 years old and he's in recovery from drugs and alcohol. He works in the treatment field as a counselor, and he's passionate about helping others by using his own personal experience with substance abuse disorder. Some hobbies of his include concerts, watching football, going to movies, and collecting tattoos. All right, Abby, let's jump into a little bit of a recap.
Yes. So, like I say every week, this conversation was just awesome. It was so awesome. I had so many chills. And just really just was, had a million follow-up questions. Such an engaging story. Ryan begins by sharing that he grew up in a household where mental health wasn't talked about. He wasn't aware of his anxiety or depression, and those conditions led him to self-medicate with drugs and alcohol. He's now 7 years and 11 months sober, and probably 8 years by the time this is released. And he is just starting to learn how to care for himself and navigate his anxiety and his mental health. His journeys led him to want to help others in the recovery and treatment field. And he shares how many people that get sober go into this field of recovery and helping others. He shares how he's learned to value his well-being of service to others, and avoiding burnout. He leaves us with such a powerful reframe for adulting and humaning that we're still talking about, days later. And instead of saying that I have to, we can approach life and chores and everything that comes with it with an I get to mentality. And so this was just, the whole conversation was just so enjoyable. And we are just so grateful he joined us on the pod to share his story.
Yeah, so well said. Ryan just has so much zest and energy, and he will leave all of you warriors just excited and inspired. So without further ado, here's the show. Welcome back, Warrior Family.
Yay!
We are joined today by an awesome guest. His name is Ryan Benson. Ryan, welcome to the show.
Hello.
Thanks for being with us. We're so stoked to talk to you. All right. So we are anxiety warriors here. That's what we have donned ourselves. It's like our badge of honor. And we love welcoming new warriors into our community. So we're so glad you're here. And so let's just kind of like dive right into your story. Tell us a little bit about how anxiety shows up in your life.
Okay. So like with anxiety, I grew up in a household where mental health wasn't talked about. So there was, like it was depression or whatever. It was never a thing for me. And it was never a thing in the majority of my adult life. Like I was a polysubstance abuser, right? So like I medicated away all of my anxiety, my depression, mental health disorders. So like the anxiety didn't really start to show itself till I got sober.
Wow.
Or at least it had always been there. I was just never aware of it because I was under like the sugar coated reality, I guess you could say, where everything was great and like nothing bad there was no like existential dread or doom or fear or anything of that nature. I mean, there was fears there, but it wasn't classified by like saying I had anxiety. And 8 years ago, you in 2014 is when I got sober. And then it was like, okay, it's a newly sober mind. I'm 18 years old, essentially by my mindset. And it's like, I'm flooded with emotion. I'm flooded with everything. And now it's like, now I'm learning how to cope with the world in a new lens.
Yeah.
So like anxiety has become like and you know, like you look at anxiety and you look at ADHD and you look at depression and how closely those symptoms mask each other, like you know, essentially mirror each other, excuse me. And they can all look the same. So it's difficult to dissect what's anxiety and what's ADHD and what's depression, right? So like anxiety for me shows up in like the fear, like the overthinking, like I can lay down at night and the rabbit wheel starts going, or the hamster wheel, excuse me. And I can overthink myself into just complete oblivion, right? No sleep, loss of sleep. It shows up in my work life. Like I'm a clinician, and when there's deadlines to be met, or say my clinical coordinator comes to me and is like, I need to add this client to your census, and this instantaneously I go into self-destruct mode. So like, and this is more recent too. So essentially for me, like anxiety shows up in my everyday life. It shows up, it rears its ugly head. Like I could be invited to a cookout per se, and I'll be all amped up and geared up to go. And then an hour before, like I'll find some excuse not to go because I don't have the spoons to people. I don't have the spoons to go be around my friends. I would rather stay on the couch or stay at home and do nothing. And just exist, like stare at the TV, play on my phone, which whatever, the phone's it's a whole other anxiety mess. But that's where it shows up for me. So like learning how to cope with that on a sober mind after 20 years of active use. It's been a challenge.
I always get really excited at the beginning because I very much like love hearing people's stories, and I have a lot of questions, but I'm going to try to limit it. But before I ask my questions, I love that you said spoons, but I don't know if everyone in our audience knows that the spoons is like the having enough spoons or forks, right? To like, so can you explain that analogy for our audience? What it means I don't have like enough spoons for people?
I guess so. I'm going to put it in I statements. And I'm going to put it to how I interpret the spoons concept. So like if I get up first thing in the morning and I get on the scrolling horror show that is social media, that takes away a spoon. If I have instant like conversation that it might be something like a work deadline, that takes away a spoon. Just general fatigue after a long day of like talking all day or being in sessions all day, like that takes away spoons. And then sometimes on the weekends when it's not work related, like I get up and I have this regimented routine every weekend, because we thrive in routine with anxiety, because if we get outside of that routine, it takes you might as well throw all my spoons out the window, the rest of the day is shot. So like I don't handle that well. And I know when my silverware drawer is about empty, because I will get short tempered, and it's like at that time I'm like, well, it's time to go radio silent.
I love the analogy. And I love also, I know when my silverware drawer is getting on empty, like, I mean, yes, totally. Right. And then you don't have the silverware for other people. It's like, nope, sorry. So now to my question. So the first thing is, I just want to say, like, 8 years sober, congratulations. Like that is a huge, huge accomplishment, you know? I don't know if accomplishment's the right word, but I'm sure, I mean, it is like 8 years sober is, I know it's a lot.
Okay. So sorry, I'm 7 years. I'm coming up on 8 years. So my math was wrong. I don't want to give myself any fronts.
Okay. All right.
I gotta earn the 8 years.
Fair.
I'm a month out from 8 years, but I still got to get there. So,
oh my gosh, I love that. I mean, I think, I don't know, that's something that I just got a full body chill that you're just like, no,
the integrity.
Yeah. It's the integrity piece. It's like, and I've never been addicted to any substances, so I have no idea what it's like to have experienced that and to go through, and I know that being sober, I've listened to enough people who are former addicts talk about how being sober is an everyday experience. It's not something that you just like, I'm sober now and I'm going to keep being sober. It's like actively practicing being sober. And that's why you keep, yes, you still have your sponsors, you still go to meetings. There's still the community that you need to, drawing resources from and whatnot. So just hearing that, like, it feels so much more empowering, like from you, that like, even as somebody who has zero experience with any of that, I have just so much intense respect, obviously, for making the choice to get clean, stay clean, and be able to keep doing it for so many years. But then also just saying like, actually, wait, I need to earn those 3 weeks. I just think that's just dope. It's like, that's the part that's special, right? Yes, the 8 years is special, but the 7 years and 11 months is pretty fucking special too. So like,
yes. Yeah.
I just think it's all just so important. So anyway,
yeah. So
going back.
So my question is, when you started to abuse substances, do you think that some of that was coping with anxiety, ADHD, depression, but without having any labels to it?
I feel that way. I
Mhm.
feel that addiction definitely starts as a choice. It starts as an option. It was my way of coping, fitting in, wanting to be a part of, finding my grounding, fitting into a community of people, dare I say friends. So it always transformed. It might have started with alcohol and marijuana, and then as time goes by and I get introduced to new people doing different substances, it became more and more and more and more. And like, even in sobriety, that's what my anxiety shows up in more and more and more and more sometimes. So like, it's very much so the disease of more, having to have the next thing, the next best thing. So it's like, it's a really, it's a tough thing to balance.
Right.
It's a tough thing to balance.
I appreciate how you said, like, not only is it doing alcohol and drugs and stuff, but it was the fitting in, it was being with friends, it was feeling accepted. Like, there's so many different pieces to it. What did you do, like, when you started to realize, like, wait a second, like, there's something going on here, right? Because like you said, we didn't talk about mental health when we were young. We didn't have these words and these labels. So when all of a sudden you're becoming sober and you notice all this stuff going on in your body, like, what did you do in that?
Like, are you referring to after I got sober, or are you referring to while I was in
Both,
active
maybe.
use?
I mean, I was referring to after, but now I'm curious.
It's so funny because like, I assumed you meant like, how did you, like, when did you hit the wall almost? Like, what made you decide something's off, I can't do this anymore, I can't sustain this or whatever, and then made the choice? And then, like, as you were saying, Abby, like after the fact, or
then how did you, like, realize, oh, this is anxiety? Like,
Oh shit. excuse my language.
yeah, we're down
No,
for cursing if you
For
are.
your listeners, I mean, I don't know who's listening.
more
but...
than half of our episodes are explicit.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
well, fantastic. Good.
Yeah.
Because I don't have much of a filter, and generally with the population that I work with, it's okay to drop some.
All right.
So we're good. We're good.
Yes.
And I look back at it in retrospect. An active addiction to anxiety looked a lot different. Alcohol is known to cause anxiety. Drugs and alcohol, other substances are known to be a proponent of causing anxiety. Yeah. So like, there's the anxiety of waking up and not having anything, the anxiety of what am I going to do to get it, and in that moment, I'm under the influence. I'm under the influence of whatever substance is running my life, which was 9 times out of 10, all of them. So you fast forward into recovery a little bit, and it's like, you start to notice these things, but we're creatures of habit. We don't know any better. I didn't know how to act. I didn't know what life was without anything in my system. I didn't know what life looked like in reality without without it all. Everything's raw and real. The flood of emotion, that flood of chemicals that comes back, and like it took some time. And I'm not gonna say like this whole realization with anxiety has really started to manifest itself in the last couple of years. So like now I'm more aware of it.
Yeah.
And I'm becoming more educated on it. You know, we always hear just like, well, I'm diagnosed anxiety, diagnosed depression, ADHD, bipolar disorder. And it's easy to make those diagnoses in early recovery because we are still filtering the junk out of our systems. So that stuff comes out and it looks like mental health. There's a huge thing going on right now in treatment and like diagnosing mental health at a certain point in time of sobriety, like after a certain point in time, instead of right away. People are getting misdiagnosed, and those diagnoses will follow somebody along for the rest of their life.
Right.
So now I'm learning.
Yeah.
And it took learning at the behest of the people around me, like say coworkers, people in my personal life that see like the short curt behavior, that see the meltdowns, that and if he listens to it, I know he's gonna laugh, because like he's been on the brunt of an anxiety meltdown of mine more than a couple of times. And I talk about it, I'm very honest about it, because like I don't want to live like that anymore.
Yeah.
So the coming to the realization that I needed to get help and get sober was at severe physical consequences and health consequences. And now coming to the realization that I need to work on my mental health as a part of my recovery. Recovery is very much so a life-changing experience, change mind, body, and spirit. So like the mental health piece is something that is becoming real now. So like I'm at that point where I realize like I need help. Somebody help me. Like I'm like throw me that life preserver, please. I'm drowning. And I'm trying to let go of that rock.
Yeah. Right.
So
right. Oh, I love that. I'm trying to let go of that rock. And also I'm willing to accept the help now. Please send the preserver. Like,
yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It's just so it's
chills.
All right. So, talk to us a little bit about, and you kind of touched on it a little bit, but share with us in a little bit more detail about the ways in which anxiety kind of manifests itself in your mind and body, in your behaviors. You shared a little bit about feeling like a little short-circuited, tempers, meltdowns, I think was a word you used, and I also just would love for you to share more about like what it feels like now in your recovery journey to feel everything. Cause like you kind of talked about how, right, all your senses are dulled. You just kind of, you're coming alive in the past near 8 years in terms of like feeling things, truly feeling things. Cause like obviously substance abuse, again, from my limited knowledge and from what I've heard from other people in recovery, is like the absence of feeling. It's just like being numb or being in a heightened or severely low place. So like, I don't know, share with us about how it shows up in you physically, emotionally, spiritually in that way. And also, what does it feel like to feel everything now?
Yeah.
So it shows up. It shows up in negative self-talk, not feeling a part of, feeling alienated, alone, right? I can be in a room full of friends and feel like I'm completely alone in solitude, and that I'm just a face in the crowd. Shows up in like definitely fears. Like a physical way would be an upset stomach. I get more fidgety, sweat, I worry, and then all of a sudden, there we go. There goes the tornado, and bam, right there, instantaneously, like I fire off. I don't have control of my emotions in that just that anxiousness, right? Like, what am I gonna do? And then I start to run and scramble, and my mind goes back to like, what am I gonna do to get high? And it's like this subconscious thing. What am I gonna do to get through this? Like, how I'm gonna make this work? What can I do to make this work? How can I put this piece here and that piece there? or am I going to be able to financially afford it? All those thoughts come flooding through. And, like, it sounds like a lot of noise, but good Lord, am I grateful to be able to feel this way right now. Because if I couldn't feel this way, I wouldn't have a way to address it. Right.
Yeah.
So, I guess like feeling it is, it's weird. I'm trying to think of how to make an association for it. Feeling feelings is a wild thing, man. It is weird. It's weird because I could run and hide from it before, and fast forward through time, right?
Yeah.
I'll get drunk at night and wake up the next day.
Right.
And I got to the next day.
Right.
And now what am I going to do to calm myself down enough to go to sleep at night so I can wake up and be productive the next day?
Yeah.
Or like, some days it's different. So I guess that's what I can say on that.
Right. I mean, it's just like, for me, it's so interesting because basically like everything you said, like I could relate to, the physical part, the overthinking part, and just what's standing out to me is in like the overthinking and the calculating, right? It's just different things, but they're still intrusive thoughts. They're still overthinking thoughts. And, what you were sharing before in the story was like, how am I going to get the substance, the alcohol or whatever, when am I going to get it? Right. And like, those were the anxious thoughts, but it was around getting the thing that kind of makes you feel a little better, and how that's now changed. And to me, it's just so fascinating because, Margot and I talk a lot about intrusive thoughts, and we talk a lot about overthinking and the overwhelm that comes with it. But I never really thought about how different all of our overthinking thoughts might be, like what they're about, right? Like I always related in the sense of the overthinkingness, but I never really thought about that other piece to it, right? It's like, what is our brain, what is the overthinking part of our brain working on, and how is that different for each person? And so I just really appreciate you bringing that piece into it, because for me, it just gave me this new layer of thinking about overthinking with. Now I can overthink about that.
You're
about
welcome.
what other people are overthinking about. I wonder what that anxiety warrior is overthinking about right now.
right. But then, I mean, the other thing that you said, and I think a lot of anxiety warriors can relate to this, is feeling that aloneness in groups, right? Because on the outside, we might appear extroverted or friendly, but on the inside, like nobody knows what we're feeling. And I know I myself have felt that way, like among a group of people, and I just feel like invisible, or I feel like nobody really knows me, or I just feel alone in the experience. And I think that's a really powerful part too, is because on the outside, we might not look that way, right? In the groups, but yeah. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, so good. It's like you can be in a room full of people. Everyone's nice, everyone's loving and embracing. And even in a room of people you know really well, you can have that moment where you're like, but I feel alone right now. I feel unseen. I feel like I'm disappearing, Yeah. So I do think that piece is highly relatable. And the negative self-talk too. When you said that, it was like the flares went off in my mind. I'm like, yep, this is so familiar. Okay. So you mentioned a few times that you're a clinician, you're working as a counselor in a drug and alcohol addiction treatment center. And it just sounds like it's obviously a form of outreach for others in the community, but it's also, I'm assuming, serving you quite a bit, being able to be there for others that are going through what you went through for a long time and are still going through. So tell our listeners a little bit more about your work and how it supports you.
Okay. So with like drug and alcohol clinicians, it seems to be like people get sober, we work in the field. Early on, I worked in the field for another program as a behavioral health technician. Essentially, I was with clients, patients, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, 40 hours out of the week, right? And that is very mentally and emotionally draining in itself to be around, 10 to 12 individuals fresh out of a detox or fresh into treatment for the first time. First 30 days is super intense. And for myself, that was a lot because I was newly sober and I didn't even know how to handle myself as a human being.
Right.
And I am responsible for other human beings. And I'm still learning to get my shit together, which is a whole other theory that I have. We could talk about it another time if you want, but the theory of getting your shit together is a beautiful one. Anyways, and so I was gonna leave the field, like I was gonna go do something else, and I had like this experience. I went to New York for the first time in 2019, and I came back from vacation. I went up there for a couple of shows. I was in Long Island. I got to see Central Park. I got to go to Coney Island. I got to see a show in Asbury Park at the Stone Pony Summer Stage, which, like that is an experience to be had. And I got back and I'm like, what am I doing with my life? Like, why am I doing this? What I am running to the ground. I am burnout. I'm done. I'm toast. I don't know what I want to do. I'm going to do something else. I'm going to do something different. I'm going to get out of the field. And then I found High Life Recovery due to a friend of mine that I had known for quite a few years in my sobriety. And we sat down and talked. I'm like, dude, I want to be out of one-on-one client interactions. And he's like, well, we've got billing and collections. You could come in here and work in administration. And I was like, let's do it, because I want to stay connected, right? I wanted to stay connected. I wanted to try something new. And it was a way for me to stay in the field without the client interaction. I got through my first 90 days and we did my 90-day review, and we both looked at each other and we knew, like, I told him flat out, I was like, I'm not meant to be sitting at a desk. So that's when we started to talk about case management, service provision. And case management is like helping people get back on their feet, get food card, license, car insurance, whatever it is that they need. And then it transitioned into counseling. I went through their employee education program and got my chemical dependency counseling assistant licensure during quarantine. I've learned how to counsel in a Zoom world, right? I just recently started doing in-person sessions the last few months. And I'll tell you what, it's amazing because I've built rapport with these clients over Zoom.
Right.
And ran and facilitated groups over Zoom.
Right.
But like you want to know the rewarding part of it all, and is like where the rubber meets the road for me. And this is where like the gratitude piece comes in, is no matter how frustrating the workday is, no matter what goes wrong, like at the end of the day, we are a group of individuals trying to help other individuals learn how to stay clean and sober. And you work with a wide cross section of individuals, and you learn how to meet them where they're at, which is tough because you just want to shake the reality into them, like, but that's not realistic. So we meet them where they are, and our best hope is to plant that seed. And if the end of the day, it could be a single conversation, it could be a single session, it could be a great group where everybody's involved and having fun. But at the end of the day, like, I get that fulfillment. And I also get the mental exhaustion enough to go to sleep.
Wow. You found your antidote for sleeping.
Let me have 8 individual sessions in a group at the end of the day, just to wash it all down, right? But it is mentally and emotionally exhausting at the end of the day. I don't know if I want to say emotional. Some of my sessions can get very difficult and very tough, but I learn a lot about myself. And even more so, I learn more about myself from the people that I work with. So we have clinicians that are at a higher level of licensure. Like my licensure, I focus mainly on the recovery aspect And that's like the drug and alcohol, like there's some 12-step aspect there. We do promote the 12-step program. I'm also a very big believer in finding something that works for you.
Yeah.
And stick to it and work it, jump in, grab on 2 feet first and jump in that deep end and go after it.
Yeah.
Because if you find something that works for you, that's going to help you stay clean and sober for the rest of your life, or on the long term, rest of your life is, we know that tomorrow
One step at a time.
one day at a time, one day at a
Yep.
time. But if you can find something that will help you build a foundation for a meaningful recovery, then I'm all for it. And I'll learn and educate myself on what it is, and we'll work with that. But it is a very humbling, fulfilling job. It's very frustrating some days.
Yes.
I'm still learning how to get over the fear of confrontation, of like confronting people. That's going to be a struggle, and it's going to be for a very long time, but I'm getting there. I've had tough conversations with people not lately, but in the last year, like I have them, but there's sometimes it takes me all day to get the gumption to have that conversation. Having tough conversations sucks.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. The overthinking and anxiety around that, right? Before even doing it is like, that is, yeah, I can relate. I mean, I just love your story. I have a family member that was, that is recovering from addiction. I don't know how long he's been doing it, a very long time, but, he also went into the recovery world. I don't know what he does, so I don't want to like say anything wrong, but you said that like a lot of people that get sober then want to work in the field. And first of all, that just strikes me as so much, I want to say like strength and compassion. Because in my mind, trying to help people right after I've been helped, I'd be like, hey, I got some tools, let me help you too. But also I can imagine how challenging it is, because in some ways you might be seeing versions of yourself in the other people. And so it takes like a strong will and a strong dedication to being of service to continue doing it, even during those challenging parts when so many things come up for yourself. And at least that's in my mind what it would be like. And I just think it's really amazing how you knew you wanted to stay in this field, right? But you knew that what you were doing at the time was not the right fit. And you were willing to put in the time and the effort to try different roles until you found something that worked for you. Because sometimes it's like, well, this doesn't work, I'm burnt out, I just need to leave. Right. But it says something to who you are and your passion around helping people to stay and find the right fit, so that you're not so burnt out. You're just tired enough that you can fall asleep at night.
Which is a win, right?
Yeah.
Better to pass out from exhaustion from a day of helping people, right, than passing out like blackout drunk, I would assume, right?
Yeah.
Some days the blackout drunk sounds great. I'm kidding,
I'm
of
sure
course,
it sounds
but,
really great.
So that's still, this is my sick thinking,
It's still, yeah. I mean, right. And that's what I'm sure it's still in you. And then when you hear other people, right, like, but it sounds like that is what's so helpful is for your clients to be with people that actually get them and actually understand some of the stuff that they're going through. And then the last thing I just want to say, and this I'm sure is a whole nother topic that we don't have the time to really get into, but I'm assuming that when the pandemic happened, things changed in the addiction world for worse. My guess is, right? Or maybe you got more people looking for treatment, or like, did you notice the pandemic impacting people either going into recovery or leaving recovery and going back to drinking and drugs?
We were at the precipice of the world shutting down, right? The great pause is what I like to call it, the great time of reflection. A very dark time for a lot of people, and it was bad for a lot. People lost lives, and then some of us whose lives go 100 miles an hour 5, 6, 7 days a week, was a time for us to sit down and sit in our shit a little bit and like get familiar with ourselves.
Right.
Yes.
Right. And then it's like, wow, the behaviors that I have when I'm out there ripping and running. But like, God bless, like the head honcho, one of the big guys at our program, he sat down and talked to IT, like literally, if I remember the story correctly, it was like a month and a half before the quarantine hit. And he knew, and we heard the rumblings, and he said, we need to be ready to provide telehealth services virtually in case something does happen.
Yeah.
And a month later, we're in a lockdown, shut down, and able to provide services. Like IT started to go to work to get us to the bare bones of a virtual program.
Right.
And we were doing it, right? We were able to provide more services, more consistent services. Like you could go from one Zoom call right into the next, right? And but you could see the wear and tear. And I think the COVID trauma is starting to hit people more now than it was in the heat of it.
Mhm.
But like in the heat of it, we were able to check in every day. We were able to see how people were doing, and just having human conversations someday was enough to help people through that day. And we saw a lot more people trying to, come in and receive services. We were one of the few programs that was still active and running. So we were able to help people. And it set forth this new iteration of recovery, and the Zoom world, the cyber world. Like 12-step meetings started popping up all over the place on Zoom, and we were able to take clients to meetings in Zoom, so it's like they get the benefit of recovery, but they don't get the in-person social interaction. But they get a taste for it. They get familiar with it. And like there was a lot of frustration. Like, hell, it was hard to stay sober during quarantine.
Right.
I couldn't imagine not working during quarantine and trying to find meetings online and find my friends and be around people and do all the things that I need to do every day, that I get to do every day, to stay sober. So it's like we were in a learning curve too. We were learning how to stay sober in a pandemic. And then on top of it, we're trying to help others.
Right. As
gain
you
sobriety.
said, like we thrive in routine, right? And also like sometimes when we work too much, it might be because you were addicted to being busy so that we don't have to slow down and check in, right? And so, right, when we have to like slow down and our routine changes, I'm sure, I mean, discomfort comes up for all of us for sure.
Yeah. It's just been such a bizarre time. I mean, again, that's, as you said at the beginning of your question, Abby, this is like a whole separate conversation that I wish we had. Like maybe we'll do a sequel episode and it'll just be about this topic.
Yeah.
All right. So let's dive into what are some of your favorite like go-to strategies for like in the moment anxiety, or like, let's say you mentioned before, like, you have to have a really tough conversation and you have to like sort of get up the strength, and the gumption was the word you use, which I love, to like prepare for it. So like, what are some of the go-tos for when you're dealing with your anxiety that seem to support you the most? Or
Okay, so the go-tos for me right now has been, of late, the last couple of years, of working with an understanding program who has allowed me to grow as a human being while working for them, and having people around that care enough to like call me on my shit. And like, and dare I say, like I some of that stuff has had a little scarring effect in places where people are like, now what I'm going to tell you, don't get upset or what, kind of lose it or whatever. And rightfully so, because I put them in that place. And it's like knowing that is like, all right, so this is what we can do to address it. And sometimes I need to just step back, quiet time, step away, put the phone down, and sometimes even mindless scrolling on Instagram or something. It helps, whatever. Like sometimes it's that. sometimes it's music, sometimes it's I step away and I'm still I'm ex-smoker, but I'm still vaping, but I'm on my way to not vaping anymore. Fingers crossed this is
Nice.
gonna be the year to let it all go. But like I'll step away and breathe, or I will rely on feedback from my peers, people that I can call, whether it be a sponsor, whether it be a support group member, whether it be a friend, or even people from the group we're a part of, right? The Furnace Fest group, like sometimes there's people to reach out there too that might go through it once in a while as well. So like I use my resources. Now if we're talking more of like if I have time to address it, like the confrontational conversation, like I try to make that happen pretty quickly so that I don't have time to stew and dwell on it. It's like under the same mindset when you like message somebody, hey, can we talk later? No, we're talking right now. You can't put that on me.
Honestly,
It says, we'll talk later. No, we're not talking later. We're gonna talk right now.
Right. You got something
You're
to
gonna
say.
tell me.
Do it now. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, and it could
I'm
be
not
the
sitting in
silliest
that.
thing. It could be the silliest thing, or somebody's like, hey, can you come talk to me in my office here after a little bit when you're done with your session? And I'm like,
immediate
session's
anxiety.
being interrupted.
Yeah, the session part. No.
I can't focus now.
I'm learning how to relax on all that. And it's like, it's crazy. I'm on here right now because I feel like this is more of an established podcast, like a way of like offering suggestions on how to help people, and you guys are helping me more than you possibly could ever imagine, because now I'm getting real honest on here right now, and I'm like telling some serious shit of like I'm still learning, like I'm still wading through all of it, and I don't want to seem like I have all my shit together when in reality I'm learning how to figure my shit out. And it's like it's taken a lot of years to even admit it.
Right.
Oh my God, obsessed with that.
So
I mean,
it's
Abby and I have, we call it active practices, right? And it's one of the segments that we do sometimes when we have our solo episodes, when it's just the two of us, where it's like, yeah, of course we're trying to offer anyone listening some shit that helps us. We don't have all the answers. We don't pretend to have all the answers. We don't expect our guests to come on here and be like, here's what's going to work for you out there, warriors. No, it's like everyone's not an expectation at all. Everyone's coming to us to the idea of sharing their anxiety outwardly in their own way. And I just think it's just the most amazing thing for me. This is one of my favorite parts of any conversation we've ever had, because I just love hearing how different people deal with their anxiety or their depression or their addiction, or in their own way that works for them. We've heard stuff from like, I drink Dr. Pepper, to like, I do,
I smell my shampoo in the shower.
Yeah. To like, I take cold showers. I go on 25-minute runs. Like, I mean, I go kayaking. I mean, we've heard like anything you can think of.
Yeah.
And it's all so different, pretty much. It's the most different stuff. And I just think it's all valuable though, because it's special to you. Yeah. And maybe you're planting a seed for somebody listening out there that like, oh, you know what? I never really thought about, having some pre-anxiety work before I go have a tough conversation.
Yeah.
Like I've never thought about practicing letting go, or I've never thought about, reaching out to communities on Facebook or support groups. Like this is kind of the whole idea. The whole point is to just sort of like, remember that none of us are going through life alone.
Yes.
None of us are experiencing our anxiety alone.
None of us have our shit together.
None of us have our shit together. Exactly.
Yeah.
The end.
But that's the beauty of it,
yes,
right?
Exactly.
If we're always constantly in a state of trying to get our shit together, then guess what? We're living life, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Without
life.
the stress.
Might be through grit teeth, and it's like you talk about like you want to get into a conversation about self-care or whatever, but like like the 5-4-3-2-1 technique as I'm learning right now, and like mindfulness, even mindful eating. And I'm the last person to be talking about mindful eating because I just shovel in whatever's in front of me, and like sitting back and actually taking the time to eat slow or prepare food slow. Like I'm learning all these techniques.
Yes.
Learning is one thing, but putting them in application to use is another thing.
That's
But
it.
like, going to the gym, for me, it's going and working out. Like I'm not out here trying to lose 1,000,000 pounds or anything, but you go in there and you pick up the weights and you throw them down and they don't talk back to you. You don't have to confront them. And then like another piece for me is as wild as it sounds, but it is tattoos. Getting the act of getting tattooed, the preparation for it, the routine of it, the ritualism of it all is like, you have a running appointment with an artist who's working on a full sleeve on my left arm, and it's like a piece at a time, right? So we've been working on it, and it started as a huge cover up, but like, it's like every 3 to 4 months I'm rolling in there and I'm having a full day with them. The shop is very comfortable, very serene, very peaceful. And we get all in the DMs a couple days before. What are we going to do on this session? And like, here's this idea that I have, or whatever. And it's like that initial buildup, and then the prep the day before, where you go to the gym, you work out, you hydrate, you eat well, you rest, you get a good night's sleep. And it's like, those are the building blocks of like preparation for other aspects of your life. So like, if I could apply that to more of an everyday life type mentality instead of just getting ready for a tattoo appointment, then I think I would probably be better off. But guess what? Laziness is in my middle name, and I'd rather sit on my ass in my shitty diaper and complain about how bad my anxiety is instead of get up off of it and do something about it.
You just got to get more tattoos. That's all.
Exactly.
Just from head to toe.
That's what I'm saying.
Listen, the fact that that seed has even been planted is so important. Like, don't dismiss that, because I mean, look, we all know what's the perfect ideal way to live every moment of every day, right? Sure, you could make sure you drank, however, half your body weight in water today. But if you don't, are you going to beat yourself up? Like, is that going to help your mental health? Probably not. Right. So like, maybe you just remember, if I have one extra glass today, that's a win. Right. Like, that's huge. The fact that you had the seed planted. And I just love that you brought in that you're just learning about mindfulness. Like, Abby and I are mindfulness teachers. That's part of like what we do for work,
and
but
we still forget to practice.
These are called mindfulness practices for a reason.
Yes.
You can teach mindfulness and still get fucking angry and have a meltdown and like shit. Like, and we're constantly telling people that. People are always like, why are you cursing? Aren't you a mindfulness teacher for children? I'm like, yeah, it helps with my anxiety. That's why I'm cursing. Right. Like, and so like, sort of also having to defend the things that we do to help us, because it doesn't align necessarily with who we are in the world or who people perceive us to be. That's separate. But like, I wanted to share with you this quote that really landed for me when you said that. You were like, it shouldn't be that hard to like eat more mindfully. But Sharon Salzberg, Abby knows Sharon Salzberg. Yeah. She's just like a world-renowned like mindfulness meditation teacher. She's amazing. And she has a simple, amazing quote. It's just, mindfulness isn't difficult. You just have to remember to do it.
That's it.
And that's it. And it's just like, but
we all forget.
Right. And the fact that she, of all people, has this is one of her like most infamous quotes. It just goes to show that even the most practiced mindfulness person is going to be forgetting sometimes. And so like, let's remember, people, we're not beating ourselves up for when we aren't acting and behaving the way we should to help our anxiety, and should in air quotes, because
we can be curious about us not meeting our own needs, a kind and curious lens.
There we go.
Before we move on, I just want to say, I love that tattoos are part of your self-care. And I have 2 tattoos and they're both very small. I'm not going to talk about them, but I know people that get a lot of tattoos and they talk about the whole process and everything, and how there is this like peacefulness in sitting for a 4-hour tattoo, breathing through the practice. It's like a mindful meditative state, and how like it helps their nervous system and it helps their body remember, like, I can handle tough things. Like, I'm okay even when it's not okay. Right. And so I just really appreciate that you included tattoos, because I think you're the first person to include tattoos, but I have heard a number of people talk about it as this really empowering and meditative practice. And so I just wanted to like highlight, like, thank you for including that, right? Like,
Totally.
yeah, that's, yeah.
Well, you're welcome.
This will
And
be-
it is a very therapeutic process.
Yeah.
And it is
That's
it is an
Yes.
expulsion of anxious, nervous energy. It builds up. And I know, like, every 3 months I start to feel a little wonky, right? So it's like,
Mhm.
well, I don't justify it by saying I'm gonna go get a new tattoo or whatever, but like, it is that, like, you know, that act of
Yeah.
doing something for yourself.
Mhm.
I love that.
Is
I mean, like
so
tattoos as
so
self-care is a
important.
brand new one.
I
for
know. I
me.
love it.
It
I love
is.
it.
It really truly is. And it might look different for everybody else.
Right.
For some people, it's going to concerts.
Right.
For some people, it is going out and trying new restaurants. The self-care could be the simplest things.
And it doesn't have to cost anything either.
It can even be making your bed every morning.
Yeah,
That
exactly.
is
literally
part of my
that
self-care.
well, like, I sleep on top of my comforter, so I don't have to make my bed 90% of the time, but I do straighten it out and I make sure the pillows look nice. The rest of my room could be a wreck. The pile of clothes in the corner, it can stay the pile of clothes in the corner, but as long as my bed is made and there's no dishes in the sink when I leave the house,
Oh
my
my
mind can
God.
rest.
You're speaking in my life right now.
Yeah.
Legit. Our bed has to be made every day. I can't leave it unmade. I love that. Okay. If you could go back in time and offer your younger self, a younger Ryan, a bit of advice, what would you say to him?
It's easy to, like, kind of go to the cop out of, like, don't do drugs, don't date this person, don't do that. Like, I would definitely tell myself, don't get high, but go back and let's say, like, I did put some thought into this question, but it was like, don't rush through life. Don't be in a hurry to get somewhere fast. Don't be looking for the next best thing always. Take time, slow down your pace, slow your roll. And you're going to learn your lessons. You've got some lessons to learn, and you're going to find out real quick how serious those lessons are in the next few years, kid. But, like, I wouldn't trade my journey that I've been on for the last 22 years for the world. So I would tell my younger self not to do anything different, because it's going to be a beautiful journey. Now, am I saying go out there and do IV drugs or do the serious narcotics that I got into and you can have the life that I have today? No, that's just the way my story shook out, because most people could do the same stuff that I was doing and not come back.
Right.
So don't follow in my footsteps, but I'm saying follow in my footsteps, because you'll have a greater appreciation for what you have by the time you're my age.
Wow.
Wow.
Oh my goodness. So powerful.
When you said don't rush through life, it like gave me chills and like put tears in my eyes. And I have to, like, after this conversation, think about why it touched me so much. But I just think that is such a powerful reminder. It's like we all think we're trying to get somewhere, right? But where are we trying to go? Like, we don't have to rush. We can slow down and be in our life and not constantly be going to what we think we're chasing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Blame capitalism for that one.
Yeah.
And
Well,
the grind in society.
you have a reminder when you're at the grocery store, and it's a hypothetical situation here. You're at the grocery store and somebody's rushing by to get by, do whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like, why rush through life? And my response is I'm in no hurry to get through life.
I love it.
So good.
Yeah.
It's awesome. I love it. Okay. So final question before we get into some lightning round fun.
Yay.
Get yourself ready for that. All right. So what does being an anxiety warrior mean to you?
what does it mean to me? And this is a new terminology for me, so I'm getting familiar with anxiety warrior. But at the end of the day, I really think it's just not giving up and doing what I need to do to get through the day and have a meaningful day. Do one meaningful thing for the day. Doing one thing to get outside of my comfort zone. Not every day, not every week, but maybe once a month. Do something that I normally wouldn't do and get out of myself.
Yeah.
I love it.
That's
And
awesome.
I mean, it's so true. It's like just the practice of being okay stepping outside the comfort zone. It's like, yeah, I'll show you anxiety.
Yeah. And I just like the idea of one, right? Like it doesn't have to be like, get done these 10 things today and then it's been a meaningful day. It's like, no, maybe that one thing was meaningful. Maybe just in this week, or you said you went from like day to week to month. And I love that because it's not rigid, right? You're leaving it open, and yeah, warriors don't have to be hard and strong and tackle things all the time. They can be soft and strong. They can be patient, you know. I love that. Okay.
Yeah.
This was such an inspiring episode. Like I'm left with like full body chills, but
yes,
it's time to play. It's time to play. We're going to have some fun in
lightning round.
High tech sound effects here on the pod. As you can tell, we're very well funded.
Where's that green screen when you need it, right?
That's right.
All right. All the stuff behind us. Okay. So Abby and I are going to go back and forth and just ask you a handful of fun, get to know Ryan type questions, so our listeners can connect with you a little bit more in a more like playful way. You do not have to answer quickly. You can take a pause, take a breath, consider your answer.
Yeah.
It does not have to be at lightning speed. Lightning is just yeah. I don't know.
It's just what it's called.
It's just what we call this segment. What can I tell you? All right. All right. So, Abby,
I'll go first.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So you mentioned getting tattoos. So I know that in some tattoo shops, parlors, salons, places, they let you pick the music that you want to listen to. Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So
sometimes.
What is your go-to music choice if you get to choose the music for like a full day tattoo?
Oh, wow. I tend to get into like there's a genre of music called post rock, which is generally music without like a vocalist. You just play instrumentals. There's a local band in Columbus, Ohio called The End of the Ocean. And they're very atmospheric, like heavy crushing guitars and like piano work and like sound bites, and they paint these like super beautiful audiophile landscapes. I was like looking for the right word. No need to edit that. Whatever, we'll just run with it. But no, they paint these landscapes and you could get lost in it real quick. So like that helps me meditate too. So like that's definitely a go-to, but I tend to lean to where the artist is at because I need them to be in the zone.
Yeah, that's true.
For me to have a more enjoyable session.
Yeah, that is smart.
Yeah.
That makes sense to me. All right, let's keep on this theme a little bit. So we know you have a lot of tattoos. Do you have a favorite tattoo? And can you like tell us about it? And it's like meaning, maybe, if there's a meaning.
Oh, wow. A favorite?
Well, how about one of your favorites?
Or maybe like the experience. Sorry, I'm adding to your question.
No, I'm thinking.
I just love hearing about the meaning behind people's tattoos sometimes. So I really want to know about meaning if you're willing to share. I know I know it can be deeply personal. So
okay, so all right, so not very many of my tattoos are very personal. Like I just wanted something to look cool, or like I want the artist to have fun doing it, because I believe like, you know, that mentality, like when the artist is almost done and they're like, I'm super excited about this and I hope you are too. Like that gives me chills. Like that mentality gives me chills. but I would say it's my Coheed and Cambria piece on my calf. The artist who did it, she and I crossed paths at the same shop like months before a Coheed show. I was getting another piece done on my shin at the time, and like we were wearing the same hat, the same Neff skateboarding. Is it skateboarding or snowboarding, whatever. I bought it because it looked cool. It had tigers on it at the time. It was cool. Whatever. You know, I was trying to live my younger life in my mid-30s. But so we joked that we had the same hat and yada yada yada. Anyways, you fast forward like 6 months and I run into her and her boyfriend, well, now husband, boyfriend at the time, at a Coheed and Cambria show. And I was like, oh shit, like you guys are from such and such a shop, and like I know you guys are cool, right? We got the same hat. And I was joking, I'm like, you should, like we should link up on a Coheed tattoo or something. And I followed her on Instagram, and at the time I want to say she was very close to being done with her apprenticeship. And she messaged me like a couple months after the show, and she's like, I'd really like to do a comic book strip style Coheed tattoo, because they have graphic arts novels, or like graphic novels, comic books that come out that coincide with the music, or the music coincides with the storyline of the graphic novels. Excuse me, proper terminology here. I think that's what it is. I'll probably get chastised by by Coheed people. But anyways, whatever. This is my story, and this is how I choose to tell
That's right.
it. So I'm gonna own that shit. And she messaged me and wanted to do something graphic novel style, comic book style tattoo, full color. It was like, if I remember correctly, it was one of her first full color pieces. And I mean, this sucker's big. It like covers my calf, and it's like there's like it's two characters from the comic books, and like the symbol, the keyword symbol, and like there's some dragonflies in there, and there's some space stuff in there. So there's like important parts of like the Coheed lore are in this tattoo. It was like her first full color piece, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow.
Like large scale full color piece.
So she'll never forget you.
Exactly.
Okay. What is some piece of advice that has stuck with you?
A piece of it. Wow, that's a tough one. Holy cow. I'm not usually stumped. I can rattle some shit off, but a piece of advice that has stuck with me. It was a friend of mine in early recovery had always talked about, and gratitude is spoken of quite a bit in the recovery field. It is in the lifestyle. Recovery is spoken about in a lot more than just gratitude, spoken of a lot more than just recovery, right? It's becoming more of a theme in life, right? And this is a line that I've always stuck with me, and it was, when gratitude is truly working in your life, in my life, the get tos and have tos, or the gottas and the have tos, turn into get tos. So if I gotta go to work, I have to do the laundry. That sort of mentality, I'm miserable. Life's shit, right? Like oh wait, you mean I gotta do the dishes? Whatever. I get to do these things today. I get to have options today. I get to go to work. I get to go to the gym. I get to feel feelings today for the first time in my life. Like, I get to do these things. Whereas before, I would have just done whatever just to get past it.
Right.
So it's like I get to face the hard shit, and I get to grow as a human being. So like they say gratitude is an action word, and for me, action comes in the words that we speak. And it could be as simple as holding the door for somebody. It could be as simple as having this conversation that we're having today. Like, I have gratitude for that. So like, gratitude speaks in a lot of ways, but it also speaks in the way that we talk and the way that we perceive things. So a simple twist of the words.
Yeah.
I get up I get to go to work. I get to go to the gym. And
Yes.
all of a sudden, I might be a miserable son of a bitch pushing weights at the gym and whatnot, but I get to do it, right?
Yes.
I get
Yes.
to grumble my way through it. I'm gonna kick and scream on some shit, but I get to do it today.
To do it. I love
Yeah.
that. I love it's so
Beautiful.
yeah, it's so powerful. It's such a powerful reframe.
Yes.
It's the same experience, but now you get to do it. And
Mhm.
yeah, I love
It's
it.
just, it's like the same word too, that's just slightly different, right? It's like
Yeah.
literally the exact same thing, right? I don't have to do it. I get to do it.
Yeah.
It's so important. It's such a great piece to remember. That's a great piece of advice. All right. So my final question. I know you like Star Wars. So if you could replace any Star Wars character, who would you be in Star Wars and why?
Jeez, dude. Wow. That's tough, man. That is really, 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 really tough. Are we talking okay, because are we talking like the new trilogy? Are we talking the original trilogy?
Anyone, your favorite one. Literally any character that you're like, that's my character. That's who I would be.
Mm.
It's real tough. It's real hard to want to say, not hard to want to say, like, either Chewie or maybe Han. I think
Mhm.
Han had a very good character arc.
Mhm.
Being the rough and tough and kind of, like becoming the family guy, becoming the
It's true.
like
He had a big arc.
the general. His story arc was fantastic.
All right.
Yeah, so I have to go with him for sure.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome.
Okay. I've asked this before, but I'm going to ask it again. If you could be in charge of human evolution and you can make the change of how humans are going to evolve next, right? It could be a physical thing, maybe like we get an eye in the back of our head, right? Or it could be like an emotional thing, like we all have more gratitude and we all get to have the phrase I get to more often, whatever it is. You're in charge of the next thing humans evolve to be. What would that thing be?
Oh my gosh.
So really lighthearted.
Wow, and this is lightning round question.
Yeah, this is a lightning round.
This is
Would
like
you
shit.
prefer, we could always ask you to sing something. A lot
Yeah.
of times we usually ask our guests to start singing.
That
could
is
be
not
an alt.
happening.
No?
Cut, scene,
You don't
whatever, and we're done. The next evolution of human beings, I think, would be, I think is big for a lot of us right now, is being able to laugh at ourselves more frequently, and being able to, well, like, I didn't get sober to be miserable, and I lead with a laugh a lot of the time, and it can maybe, it comes off sideways or whatever, but like, we got to be able to laugh at ourselves and like just kind of, yes, there's a lot of serious shit going on in the world right now, especially currently here in the US, right?
Mhm.
And but there's no laughing matter, but like, it's like laughing at the little shit, man.
Right.
Being able to have like that sense of humor and that self-deprecating humor, right? Like, I'm a sarcastic son of a bitch, and sarcasm is the way anxiety manifests itself in me sometimes. But like, I think having that sense of self-humor, that sense of being able to not take everything so seriously all the time,
Right.
because if we're able to let off the gas a little bit and stop like taking a step back and like just kind of laughing at the situation, and let's go, then we're good. We're good.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
I love that. I hope
That's
you're in charge of our
perfect.
evolution.
Me too.
Yeah, we all need to get a little
Next
more
job for you.
lighthearted. Yeah.
High metabolisms for everyone.
Yay.
Hey.
That's a good one. That's a really good one.
Yeah.
That's your second choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Humor and high metabolisms.
I love it. Humor and high metabolism.
There
oh my
we
gosh,
go.
that was awesome. That was a great final question. Oh my gosh, this has been this has taken me on the roller coaster of
Yeah.
feelings and emotions and energies and thoughts. And we're just so grateful that you chose to come on and chat with us today. Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
So at the end of our conversations with all of our warrior guests, we like to ask our guests to share something that happened to them this week or pretty recently that felt like a win. We call it win of the week. So do you have a win that you'd like to share with us this week?
You know what? This is a pretty big one. This is a big question. And honestly, like the win of the week would be, I actually like, no shit, right? I actually went and I got an actual doctor's appointment it started with a PCP, primary care physician, for the first time in like probably my adult life. So like that is a win of actually showing up to the doctor's appointment and like making like, I'll be honest and candid on here, and I'm not ashamed to say it, but I actually am starting medication to starting the journey into the world of medication to learn how to address like my mental health needs and my mental health issues.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, starting medication and that actually showing up to the doctor's appointment and following through with it. So I'm stubborn as shit. Like I won't go to the doctor unless it needs stitches or a cast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's huge.
That
That's
is big.
huge. I mean, even just like the steps of like finding a doctor, calling, making an appointment, like all of that is so much, especially when you have like a full job, a full-time job. And so that is a huge, huge win.
Just the doctor's appointment was enough of a win, but the fact that you're doing it to address your mental health is even more huge. So that is awesome. All right, Ryan. So share with our listeners where they can connect with you.
I'm on Instagram, Facebook. That's
out
pretty
your
much
handle.
My handle. I think it's my full name plus 1380 on Instagram. I don't have anything special, that's for sure. You can follow me there and see all my tattoos or whatever you find interest in. I can also throw out the Instagram for the program that I work for, High Life Recovery.
Yes.
I don't have the address in front of me, but I could get it over to you guys and you guys could put it up in
the show notes.
Yeah.
Yes, by all means.
We can
use the follows. We're starting a social media campaign to like kind of boost our Google presence and our social media presence, and they would love to have the helping hands. We would love to have the helping hands.
Yes, you send it over. We'll spread the word.
For sure.
Yeah, for sure. That's so awesome. And thank you for doing that important work, honestly. All right, Ryan. Well, this has been like so much fun and so inspiring. It's been awesome to connect. Thanks for being with us.
Yes, thank you.
Well, thank you.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Oh, warriors. What a conversation.
Yes.
I mean, it was just wild, the re-listen, like the roller coaster of thoughts and emotions. And I mean, it was like, it took me on the gamut. It was crazy. I think I have like a bajillion takeaways. It's going to be so hard to narrow them down.
I know. I even had like a bajillion more questions. Yeah. I mean, just such a powerful and fascinating story. And, there was so much more I wanted to keep learning from.
Totally. I feel like we could have had like a 4-hour conversation with Ryan.
Yeah.
I think one of my big initial takeaways is just how special it is that, and I guess this is not just with him, but more broadly, every time we talk to a new guest and they share a perspective, a story that is so unique to them, finding the through line, finding what's still the same from my own anxiety journey, or that also relates to some of our guest stories. And it's just like, I don't know. I guess, I don't know if this is really a takeaway from this particular conversation, but it's just more, affirmation that no matter how different a journey we're all on, we're still human beings experiencing humaning, and humaning is so hard. And so like, even though I'm not in recovery, I've never been addicted to any substances. I'm not a man. I'm not in my 40s yet, although that's coming up soon. Shh, be quiet about that, Margot. We'll talk about that later. I just feel like I could still relate to so much of the stuff that he
Yes.
said.
Yeah.
And it just fascinates me, right? That somebody who is living a life that's so different from my own, other than just like having grown up around the same time period and not talking about mental health in school and at home,
Right.
there was still so much more that I was able to connect to in what he shared that surprised
Totally.
me.
Totally. I mean, I love that takeaway, and I didn't have it and now I do. It really is just like how much we all share and how much we miss out on knowing how much we all share unless we actually talk about it.
Yeah.
Right. And so
Totally.
I'm just going to piggyback off of yours because I'm now having a very similar takeaway. And that's, I mean, that's really what it is. It's just like the power in sharing a story and how even if we don't share the same story, we can still relate to it because
Yes.
humaning is hard and
Yeah.
and we're in that community together.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Love it.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No,
I wasn't
go.
sure because you went to piggyback. I wasn't sure if you,
Yeah.
I also, every time Ryan said anything, I got the sense that he just is committed to his evolution. He's committed
Yes.
to continuing to learn.
Yeah.
He's committed to the idea that nothing's permanent. And so you have to be grateful. And I love the part where he's just like, I don't have to do it. I get to do it.
Yes. Yes.
And just like, yeah, I mean, I love the commitment to the impermanence and to knowing that the one thing that is the same though is that you're going to keep living and getting through it one step at a time.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. I mean, that kind of connects to another takeaway that I had, which was when he said like to not rush through things. Like that is the advice he would give himself. And it's just such a powerful reminder because I think that I'll speak for me, but I think that a lot of people can relate to just getting so caught up in the noise of living that we forget how to just be human, right? We're just rushed to the next thing. I need to rush to the grocery store so I can bring home the groceries so I can cook dinner, right? And then I need to rush to make dinner because I need to feed people. And then I need to, we're always like rushing to the next thing. And with the exception of having to like go to work or pick up kids or whatever it is, like why are we telling ourselves we need to rush? Like, what is the rush except for that society tells us to rush? Like, for me, it was just that, like, it really touched me. And I want to really sit with that. Like, what are more ways that I can not rush through my life? Because we have this one life, right? Yeah. Right. At least this, whatever y'all believe
that we know of.
This is the life I don't remember any other one. So
in my consciousness, I only have this one life.
Yeah. Right. And it would be nice to not rush through it.
Yeah. And Ryan said that like he didn't feel for a really long time and now he feels.
Yeah.
Right. And so you wonder if that's part of it. It makes him unique to be able to, he doesn't want to rush through things because he's actually getting to experience all the things now, and I loved hearing about his work and how humbling it is and how it's helped him in so many ways. I feel like that's a common thread also among so many of our guests. And I know, speaking for me, it's like speaking through what I'm dealing with other people in this podcast serves me. Teaching yoga to kids and helping them gain the life skills that I didn't have as a child helps me. Right. And so like all the things we do in our lives wind up being in service of others, sure, but they're also in service of ourselves so we can keep serving others. And so I think my final takeaway is just, I enjoyed really listening to all the ways, and this is true for all of our guests, that Ryan pays attention to his anxiety and copes with his mental health. And I loved his win of the week of just being able to like make that doctor appointment to figure out, a medication plan for himself to address some of this stuff and just the guts that takes on his journey. And I love learning about tattooing as a meditation. And I had never, it was cool hearing that on our show for the first time. Like none of our guests have shared that, but as you had kind of mentioned, like I've heard the same thing from some close friends and people in my life that like, tattooing is it's sort of its own addiction, but like not in a negative way. Right. Or at least doesn't seem like it is. It's certainly not for him. So I love learning about that piece too.
Yeah. I mean, that I feel like I'm just like echoing you, but that was something that really stuck out to me was just, I feel like, somewhere along the lines, tattoos got a bad rap. And it's like, if you go to work, you have to hide your tattoos. And I mean, I think that's definitely changing now versus like in the 80s, right? When we were growing up. But for me, like the biggest takeaway is, everyone has their own way of self-care, right? And just because like what works for us doesn't mean it's going to work for everybody, first of all. And same goes with them. Like for me, like I mentioned, I have 2 tattoos and I'm good. That is not a meditation. I mean, my one that took like 5 minutes, sure, I could do another 5-minute one, but a full day of a tattoo is not a self-care practice for me. That is a panic attack, right?
Yeah.
But the takeaway is we all find our way. We all find the things that work. And it's not like, I think sometimes like when we think of self-care, we still think it has to be something a little fluffy, like bubble baths, right? Or, like a glass of wine, like, but like, no, a tattoo, getting yourself a tattoo can be self-care. And I just love like the opening up the box of what's possible in self-care,
Right. And the empowerment piece of it too.
Yes.
That you both had talked about. It's like, I only have one tattoo and actually plan to get another one around my 40th. So that's coming up. But yeah, my first one was pretty short and it was not meditative at all. And so I will be leaning on Ryan and anyone else who has tattoos for some strategies in that. And like, that'll be a new anxiety for me because it's been a long time since I got the other one.
Yes.
I love that. I love that too.
And I want to say that something that really stuck out to me was, I mean, you had said this, but he had said how people that get sober, then go and work in the field. Right. And I knew that because like I said, I have a family member that is on a similar path with that. And I know a few other people that are in recovery and they now are trying to like get in the field. But it never hit me until this conversation, just how challenging that might be. Right. But that the passion and the dedication and the wanting to help is stronger than all the stress and discomfort and lack of appreciation in the field. I mean, not from the clients, but from society. Right.
Yep.
And it gave me another layer of appreciation for people who work in the, substance abuse fields, and another layer of just like amazement by the people working in the field. And so that's really my final thing is just, it takes a lot of strength and there's not a lot of like financial reward doing this work. And there's just so much like love and passion wanting to help others in this work. And it's not always easy. And yet, people still find ways to show up in these fields to be of service.
Yeah. Thank goodness for you, Ryan. Thank goodness for people that are doing that important work like Ryan. Oh boy, warriors. We hope that you enjoyed this conversation as much as we have loved having it. Thank you, Ryan, for being a guest on our show. It was such an empowering and special conversation. So friends, so warriors, if you want to connect with us, you can jump over on IG. We're at Anxiety Warriors Podcast. You can shoot us an email at anxietywarriorspodcast@gmail.com. Shout out your wins of the week. Share with us some new topic ideas, some stuff you'd love to hear Abby and I chat about. And if you're interested in being a guest on our show, please reach out. Let's connect. Let's hear a little bit about your story and help you tell it here on our show. And please take 2 seconds, smash that 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Leave us a rating and review. It just helps grow our warrior community. And we love doing this work and we want to keep doing it. And if you don't have any Anxiety Warrior podcast swag yet, you really need to like remedy that ASAP.
Yes.
Yeah. You need to just go ahead and jump into our show notes and click our Threadless shop link and grab yourself something fun from our Anxiety Warriors podcast merch store. And that is all, warriors. We love you so much. Thank you for being here.
Yes. Thank you all so much for going on this journey with us. We're so, so grateful that we get to be with you.
Yes. Taking it back, Ryan. I hope you heard that. Hope you listened to the very end. We love you, warriors. Till next time.